Welcome, everyone. My name is Molly Bonnet, and I'm the Career and College Coordinator here at the high school. It's good to see some familiar faces and definitely some new faces as well. I do a lot of different event planning to help our students have access to exposure and experience opportunities to help them have those experiences to decide what they may be interested in doing after high school and what path will get them to their goals after high school. I work a lot with students individually and with families and just try to get communication out about what you need to be thinking about and doing at the different phases of high school. So I'm really happy to have you here tonight. We're also taping the session for our families who couldn't make it, and then a special thank you to our admissions reps who will be joining us as well in just a moment. We know that the college process can be overwhelming, and so we're just going to start tonight by going over a brief overview, introduce our panel. I have some questions to ask the panel. I have quite a few questions to ask the panel, and then we'd love to get your questions answered as well. So we'll certainly have an opportunity to open it up to your questions tonight. The slides that were scrolling before and some of the pictures that you will see, I would like to mention are taken last year. We have a special celebration at the beginning of May, Senior Decision Day, and we celebrate all of our seniors and all of the choices that they're making for themselves after high school, whether they're planning to pursue military, apprenticeship, tech school, 2-year school, 4-year school. We just really want to let our seniors know that we are so proud of their accomplishments and of the choice that they have made for themselves and what they're planning to pursue. So the banner that you can see they're signing here, that actually resides in Senior Square all year, and each student signs a brick with their intention of what they'll do after high school. It's one of the fun traditions we have for our students. So what is college? That term can be somewhat ambiguous, particularly for our students who perceive themselves as somebody who's really interested in further developing their technical skills. They may not associate with the idea of college, but really college is any training program or advanced education that helps you pursue your career that you would like. Anything that helps you earn a certificate, diploma, or degree. So we know that college can look a lot of different ways, everything from super small to 60,000, everything from very focused on development of those tech skills to a liberal arts core, everything in between, private, public. And so tonight is all about trying to make sense of that, and then ultimately learning and understanding yourself and where you fit in with all that. Plenty of room, come on in. So when you're thinking about your choices, students in the audience, it's a really good idea to start asking yourself the question and start reflecting on what do you want in some of these different categories. And I put at the top intentionally program or degree that's being offered. I oftentimes will find myself meeting with a student who tells me, I want to go to this school. Great. What do you want to pursue, or what do you want to major in? I want to major in this. Oh, did you know that school doesn't even have that major? No, I didn't. So that should be top of mind, is really understanding if a school that you're potentially interested in even has the program or programs that you may be interested in. We know, of course, that students head off to college undecided. That's okay. But if you have kind of your top 2 or 3 ideas in mind, you really want to make sure that the school is offering programs to support those top 2 or 3 career ideas. And then size. I think it's worth noting, particularly for our students in the audience, that as a Forest Lake Area High School student, you know very well that you are in a building with 2,000 students. And so when you hear about a college that maybe has 1, 2, or 3,000, I find oftentimes that students scoff at that idea and they think that seems so small. But 1, 2, or 3,000 students in college is a very, very different feel than that size in high school. So just keep in mind that even though you might think, I absolutely want something a lot larger coming from the high school the size of Forest Lake, it feels very different on a college campus. Location, start thinking about how far you're willing to be from home. Do I want it to be a short drive that I can get home on the weekend, or is it okay if I am just coming home maybe for a holiday or two? So really trying to ask yourself what your comfort zone, or how far you're willing to push yourself outside of that comfort zone. Cost is, of course, huge, and we'll hear from our panelists about this. What's important to remember is that the cost of attendance, or the COA is how it is often referred, and what you pay are most often two different numbers. And there's no certain way to know what the amount is that you'll pay until your student has applied and been accepted and you've completed your FAFSA and receive what's called an award letter or financial aid letter to understand that. So I share that so that you're willing to kind of just keep your options open. It is important to mention that every single college in the country is required to have a net price calculator on their website. So you can go to any college, you can Google search any college's name plus the words net price calculator, and they're varying lengths, but by filling out that questionnaire with a bit of your financial information and some information about the merit of your student, they're able to give you an estimate on what you would pay. So it's a really good tool that you can start using now. And then, of course, there are all of the questions about what the student is interested in for their student life, activities, clubs, opportunities, research, study abroad, all of that also factors in. So the ideal spot that you want to be when you're making your college choice is in that center circle. You want to be considering what is the best academic fit, what is the best financial fit for your family, and what is the best personal fit, that student life fit. And so where those intersect, that is where your best fit for a school ultimately will be. And I know, and I've listened to a lot of different podcasts and read books, that financial fit, that circle is often a really hard topic for families. I would just encourage you to start the conversation early. Start talking about what is realistic, what, if anything, you'll be able to contribute. As parents, I've read a lot of books where there's a lot of guilt around this topic and a lot of sensitivity, but helping your student and your children understand where you are and what is possible will really help them make the decision to know what they can potentially afford as they proceed with their college choice. Too often, I'll meet with seniors in the spring just now, and I'll say, have you had the conversation at home? Do you know what you're responsible for? And they will say no. And if they're looking at, a $60,000+ school, they need to know that information. They need to know what might be possible there. So as you're crafting your list eventually of what schools you may be interested in, the idea is to have a mix of schools that are focused on fit, that academic, personal, and financial fit, and then also selectivity, depending on what your goals are. So if you are a student that is interested in pursuing a more selective institution, then you definitely want to have what we call reach schools on your list, but you also want to include schools that would be called your target schools, which typically means that you are fitting in the middle 50% of who they typically accept based on GPA, and then safety schools. You know for sure that you will be accepted to that school. So having a balance of those factors is helpful. At the end of the day, if you're somebody that is planning to pursue a 4-year college, I always tell students, I want you to have options. I want you to have several acceptance letters on the table, several award letters, so that when you're getting to spring semester of your senior year, you can make a comparison across those factors of academic fit, financial fit, with all of the information there, and personal fit. So, panelists, do you mind joining us up front? I should start out. I just received word from Century College that they are not able to join us, but the good news is everybody on our panel has had experience on the two-year scene and can speak to it. So we'll definitely be covering two-year and tech school information as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let Brittany start. Yeah, Brittany, if you don't mind just introducing yourself with your name, college, and type of college, and certainly include St. Cloud Tech if you'd like.
Sure. My name is Brittany. I am from St. Cloud State University, located right in St. Cloud, about an hour and 15 away from here. We are a mid-sized Division II public university, so we offer a number of undergraduate programs, pre-professional, graduate, master's, and PhD level programs.
Hey everyone, I'm Kelsey. I'm with UMD. I'm a regional counselor, so I live in the Twin Cities, and I work with Forest Lake here. We are the medium-sized campus of the University of Minnesota, so we have about 10,000 students on our campus. We're primarily undergraduate focused, and what I mean by that is that 9,000 out of the 10,000 are undergrad students, and then we do have a medical school, pharmacy school, and some master's and PhD level programs too, but we are mainly undergraduate. And so really being that medium-sized school, it gives you a lot of opportunities to be involved as an undergrad, which I think is really cool.
Hi everyone, my name is Jonathan Rosario. I'm an admissions counselor at the University of St. Thomas. And we are the largest private Catholic university in the state of Minnesota. And with that being said, we have about 6,000 undergraduate students and about 3,000 in our graduate program.
Hi, my name is Christian Santiago. I'm also an admissions counselor at the University of St. Thomas. Apart from what Jonathan said, we have about 150 different majors and minors for our undergraduate students, as well as a number of different graduate and doctorate programs.
Great. You've already covered some of this information, but for the stuff that you didn't cover, we can start down at your end, Christian. I know you covered body size, student body size, but anything else in the areas of percent of students who live on campus, average size of your freshman class, etc. would be great.
Yeah, I'd be happy to touch on some of that. In terms of cost of attendance, we are a private institution, so our tuition is higher because we don't receive government funding. So in terms of direct costs, we're looking at around $66,000, and then with indirect costs like loan fees, books, transportation, anything like that, we're looking at another $3,500. Student bodies, percentage of students who live on campus. So we have a 2-year residency requirement. So our students are required to live on campus for their first 2 years. And there are medical and religious exemptions to that. Otherwise, we're looking at around 42% of our students that are living on campus. So that's around 2,500 students. Average size of our freshman classes, we're looking around 1,300 to 1,400 students. In terms of percentage of students who complete a degree, we're looking around 80 to 90%. And then average time, we're looking at 4 years. Otherwise, could be less, just depending on, we do have a lot of students who come in with PSEO credits, dual credits, AP credits, anything like that. So our programs are built for 4 years, but they can be done sooner. And then, is there anything you want to add?
Sure. Yeah, I know the cost of attendance can be a little bit scary too. So St. Thomas personally, we give out a merit scholarship to 97% of our undergraduate students. And based on like ACT and GPA, that can range anywhere from 23,000 to 33,000. So that kind of like halves the cost as well. So yeah, that's what I wanted to.
Do you mind sharing a little bit of information on who might get a scholarship as far as your application criteria is concerned?
Yeah.
You look good. All good. Yeah, absolutely. So, so any senior who applies to St. Thomas is considered for this merit award. And so the nice part about it is that there's no extra strings attached, there's no bells and whistles. All you have to do is just by submitting an application, you're automatically considered for this. And so Jonathan already talked about GPA and ACT. So in terms of our middle 50% of students that get accepted, we're looking at around a 3.3 to a 3.9 GPA. And then ACT for our middle 50%, we're looking at around 24 to 29. That being said, we are a test optional institution, so ACT or any standardized test like an ACT or SAT is not required to apply to St. Thomas, but students can include it if they do want that in their application. And I mean, coming from the admissions perspective of things, we appreciate the transparency and the openness of our students to share that score with us, because I mean, you know, our job here is to advocate for you guys and to get you guys the best application possible, because the better your application is, the more money you're going to get, essentially. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
No, I think you covered it.
I'll just jump in as far as private schools in general. Generally speaking, that cost of attendance is just pretty much right in the range of what you would expect. Schools like Carleton are certainly closer to maybe 75,000 right now, I believe. And the same was probably true also for that middle 50% GPA. Wouldn't you say, with cohorts like Hamlin, St. Ben's, Gustavus, St. John's? I think it's probably similar. So just wanted to add that for the broader private school conversation. Kelsey.
Yeah, so at UMD, so our cost of attendance, the one thing I want to mention, in the University of Minnesota system, so the 5 campuses in the U of M, so there's the Twin Cities, Duluth, Morris, Crookston, and Rochester. We all have what's called tuition banding, so that means that you only pay up to 13 credits a semester. So we don't charge per credit after 13 credits, so your tuition is pretty stable in the University of Minnesota system. And so our cost of attendance at UMD right now, for tuition and fees, it's just over $14,000 a year. And then percentage of students that live on campus, about like 96% of first-year students will live on campus. We don't have an on-campus living requirement, so that means even as a first year, students can live in the residence halls. We have on-campus apartments as well that are right across the street, and then we have a lot of obviously off-campus housing in Duluth. And so even though it isn't required to live on campus, 96% of first years will live on campus in some capacity. And so living on campus in the residence hall, including your meal plan, that's just under $9,000 a year. So your total cost of attendance between living on campus, your food, your tuition and fees, I'm probably not going to do the math right, but it's about $25,000 a year, and that is before financial aid, you know, before scholarships. And something that Molly mentioned already, and you know, these two mentioned too, don't let the sticker price deter you from looking at a college, because you're not going to pay $60,000, $70,000, or even like, you know, $25,000, right? Like, you're going to get scholarships and aid to get that cost down a little bit, or a lot, hopefully. So the average size of our freshman class coming in is about anywhere from 1,900 to 2,100. Honestly, with COVID, it's been kind of like a roller coaster, but our average is about 2,000 for our incoming freshman class. The percentage of students who completed degree, so this number is going to sound really bad, but hear me out, okay? So on our campus, the percentage of students who complete their degree in 4 years, and this kind of goes into the next question too, is about 60-something%. Okay, so you have to keep in mind students who transfer in, transfer out, change their majors. We do have some programs on our campus that are 4.5 years. For example, our engineering programs are a little bit longer. We have an integrated elementary and special education program where you have to student teach 2 full semesters, so that's a little bit longer. But the majority of students will come out of UMD with some sort of degree. It's a question down here too, but our internship and career services department is amazing. And our placement rate is almost 100% that students are either employed or continuing education within 6 months of graduation. What do schools look like as far as an applicant goes? Honestly, we are a holistic review campus. We're going to look at you as a whole person. We're not just going to look at a cumulative GPA or a test score. We want to know, what are you involved with? What are your passions? Like, why are you interested in UMD? Like, you know, what goals do you have? What's your career interest? What are you involved with here? You know, so we really want to know, you know, everything about you. At UMD specifically, we're not just going to look at a specific, you know, number or cumulative GPA.
So for St. Cloud State, our cost of attendance this year for tuition was $10,118. And we have a similar structure with our tuition. So our students, if they are taking between 12 credits and 18 credits, they pay the same dollar amount. 12 and 18 credits, typically students don't go over 18 credits, and I wouldn't recommend it either, but 12 to 18 credits, you pay the same dollar amount. So again, it just helps with financial planning and helps you know to expect when the bill comes. What else? Student body size. So we serve about 10,000 students a year on our campus. Our average freshman class usually sits right between like 700 and 800 freshmen. We do have a first-year live-on requirement, so you live in the dorms with us your freshman year unless you meet one of the exemptions. But yes, so we have a first-year live-on requirement between dorms and meal plan. Those two together cost right around $9,000. So if you're looking at tuition and room and board, you're going to be looking right around that $20,000 mark, just as an estimate. What else? Students who complete a degree, I don't know what our 4-year rate is overall. I think it's about 82% that do end up with a degree. Most of our students take 5 years to graduate. However, with that new banded tuition between 12 and 18 credits, that's been helping with that 4-year graduation rate just to kind of incentivize students to take more courses. But it really does just depend on the individual student. Personally, when I was doing my undergrad at St. Cloud State, I just opted to go on the lower side and take 12 to 13 credits. But if it's important to you to get out in 4 years, that 18 credit limit really does come in handy. What do we look for in an applicant? Our application process is really quick and painless. It's always free with us, and then it takes 10 to 15 minutes online. You fill out some general information, and then we just need your high school transcript, and then you're considered for admission. So there's no ACT or SAT required. There's no essay involved. If you just complete that free 10, 15-minute app and get us your transcript, we'll automatically consider you. And then if you have a 2.5 GPA or higher, you'll be automatically admitted. If you had below a 2.5, then your application would be under review. But we just do what we can to try to make that process pretty quick for you all.
I should mention too that several of our Minnesota State College and University system schools, which St. Cloud State is a part of, have automatic acceptance requirements. They vary. Mankato's is a 3.0, Bemidji is 2.7. If you are a student that is falling below that automatic acceptance requirement, that's often referred to as a bubble student, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to get in. It just means that it will benefit you if you take a couple of extra steps with your application. So although you are not being asked for a letter of recommendation or an essay as part of St. Cloud State or any of our other Minnesota State institutions, you can still submit that information. And I think all of these admission reps would agree that they are happy to accept extra information that provides context to an application. So they will always review that personal statement, that letter of recommendation. You can make your case, you can advocate for yourself. There are things that happen in people's lives and they want to know about that. They want to understand if, wow, as a 10th grader, COVID just really, I did not do online learning well. Provide that context for them, explain that to them. I'll just also add, we have, I think it's 26 two-year tech and community colleges part of our Minnesota State College and University system, and generally their cost of attendance is right around $6,000, assuming that you're not living on campus. A few have opportunities to live on campus. St. Cloud Tech is one of them, right? Because so the students at St. Cloud Tech can actually use St. Cloud State housing. Vermilion has campus housing, and Itasca, thank you. So that the rest, if you're going to go away to community college, like Lake Superior College, you're going to find your own housing generally. The student size varies, but those campuses offer a wide variety of programs from tech specific, think nursing, think robotics, think auto technician, diesel mechanic, to transfer pathways. That's something that is very powerful in our state that we have, and we'll get to a transfer question in a moment. But a lot of students, and I would say an increasing percentage, are finding cost to be a prohibitive factor, and they're choosing to start at a two-year school and choosing to transfer. And I think all of these institutions will probably say that they're happy to accept transfer students. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. The other thing that I wanted to make sure everybody understands is that to go to any two-year school or tech school in our state, you just need your high school diploma. Your GPA doesn't matter. So I often explain to students that if you're finding yourself in that 2.0 range, you can go to college, to a two-year school, and if you complete 1 year of full-time coursework, the school that you are transferring to no longer looks at your high school transcript, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys care about the 1 year of full-time college coursework and the grades that were earned through that process. I actually will back up on, so then I also want to mention the most selective schools. Last year we had a session about selectivity, and we had Carleton here, and I can tell you if you're out there and wondering about what it takes to be accepted at one of those schools. So right now, Carleton is probably perceived as one of our most selective schools in the state. Macalester, some of the different colleges at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities are highly, highly selective schools. Carleton is looking for, they shared last year, students who have between 9 and 12 AP courses. They are looking for very high GPAs, but they're also doing a holistic review, so they also want to know your full story. Kelsey, I don't know if you have this information at the top of your head, but University of Minnesota Twin Cities College of Science and Engineering, I think they're like 3.9 plus for GPA.
Even more than, especially engineering, it's like if you don't have over a 4.0, like you don't really have a chance. Like,
Yeah.
I say that sounds really bad. At least like as a direct like application from high school.
Yeah, it's incredibly selective. Their middle 50% of ACTs are 32 to 35 or maybe 33 to 35. Same would be true for their College of Biological Sciences. That is very competitive, and their nursing school is probably one of the most competitive programs in the entire state to get into. So just some different data points and numbers to keep in mind. They're also looking, those most selective institutions, I alluded to it with Carleton, but they're really looking at your course choice during high school. They want to see 4 years of rigor. They want to see that you are persisting with 4 years of math. I've had places like Madison tell me that they won't look at an applicant in their College of Engineering if they don't have Calc 1 in high school. Same is true for their business program. So they're looking at rigor in the course selection that you are making. I'll often hear students say, I really want that super easy senior year where I'm just kind of sliding. I'm like, there's a trade-off, there's a consequence if you're choosing that path. Okay, enough of me. Brittany, maybe you want to pick up with what common attributes do successful students possess at your school?
I think at our university, but probably any public institution in general, right now, and I can say this because I came from an education background too, your high school teachers care a lot about how you perform in the classroom. If you forget to take a test, if you didn't turn in a piece of homework, they're pretty good about reminding you typically. And when you go to college, you have to have a lot more independence and self-advocacy skills. So I would say our most successful students definitely are independent and have good self-advocacy. We do have some supports in place, especially during that first year, to help you be successful, such as we offer like TRIO, if you're familiar with like Upward Bound, College Possible. So we have an office that supports those students, if anyone's familiar. We do also have student success coaches, which are kind of like your college, like school counselor. So like if you're not getting to class, they'll pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, Jack, where are you supposed to, or where are you right now? And so if they're starting to see some trends, they'll just check in with you too and see if you need other supports. And so we do have some structures in place. However, in general, students who are most successful do have those good independence and self-advocacy skills.
pretty much everything that was just said, but I want to add also time management. I know that that can take some time to learn, obviously, and really just time management, and also not being afraid to ask for help if you need it. I struggled with math really bad. Math was not my strong suit. I took advantage of tutoring center, even talking with my professor. On our campus, our professors teach every class, and I know that sounds like an obvious statement, but we don't have TAs or grad students, and it might actually be the same for all of us here. So your professors are teaching all of your classes, so if you need help, approaching them during their office hours after class, just don't feel like it's a weakness or you should feel embarrassed to ask for help if you need any clarification. So that's my biggest thing, and that I think really, that's definitely a good characteristic and attribute to have going to college too.
I often share that if I could bestow one superpower on any of our high school students, it would be the ability to ask for help. So it's a great skill to develop here and now in high school because you will need it in college to be successful.
Yeah, I would say some common attributes that we have for our Tommies at St. Thomas is being a change maker, taking initiative, and like these two have said, really like reaching out to your resources. 95% of our Tommies are hired within 6 months after their graduation date. Me personally, I was connected to this job as an admissions counselor by the director of campus life. So that's why I really stress the importance of networking and yeah, just like really reaching out because we have you can sit one-on-one with our career educators. They'll sit with you, update, help you create your resume. And so they're really like preparing you to, find your job after your 4 years. So if you want to add anything on that.
Yeah, I just want to touch a little bit more on the initiative side of things. You just don't want to be a student who just goes to class, goes to eat, and then goes back to their dorm and does nothing. There's all these opportunities around campus in terms of clubs to join, organizations, and we talk about the career center. There's all these different jobs and internships that you could potentially apply for, and being the one to take the initiative to say, hey, I'm a first-year engineering student. I would love to see what internship opportunities are there, and I think that's what sets some Tommies aside from the others. So I think that's all.
Yeah, I'll just add one comment on the time management. For the seniors in the audience, we just had an alumni panel. Every year I host an alumni panel with some recent alums for our senior class and ask for their advice. And they spoke a lot about time management because they saw how their classmates would go to college and you never have more free time on your hands than when you start school. And it's really exciting, but it's also easy to hit a pitfall and mismanage that time and end up, whether it be going down a video game rabbit hole or I'm just gonna enjoy my time at the coffee shop rabbit hole. Things can catch up with you quickly. And so, focusing on those skills now, again, is a really huge asset for later. We'll continue with you guys at the end. What are the advantages, disadvantages of your school that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, I think that, in terms of some of our advantages, I think our location, in terms of where we are, our main campus is about 40 minutes here, sorry. In the resident.
Did you walk?
Yeah, I did.
Really slowly?
It's, about 40 minutes away from here in the residential area of St. Paul. And then also too, just we're in it's a very safe environment that we're in. We're also, in a sort of college town. There's a couple colleges that are nearby us, McAllister and St. Catherine's to name some. So, wherever the places you're going to, we're in like a very student-oriented environment. Another advantage that I really think that St. Thomas is doing great is our forward thinking in terms of development. So in the spring of 2024, we'll be having a new building opening up. It's our STEAM complex, so it's pretty much blending the STEM with the arts, so essentially making STEAM, haha, thank you. So that the state-of-the-art technology, new buildings, new labs, so super up-to-date technology for our students. And then we just recently announced that we are having a new basketball and hockey arena on our campus. So it's going to be super awesome for our athletes and for our students who want to get involved to spectate. And I'd say that those are some of the amazing advantages. In terms of one disadvantage, I say this as a joke because one of our students said it, but we're a Pepsi product school, so I don't know how you guys feel about Pepsi products versus Coca-Cola, but we're a Pepsi product school, so that might be a disadvantage to some. But I don't know if Jonathan has his feelings on that.
Yeah, I am more of a Coke guy, so Coca-Cola. So that is a small disadvantage. But yeah, I think Christian covered it all.
At UMD, location, I think, is huge. A lot of students who I work with down here, the location sells them. You know, they want to get out of the city. They don't want to be on like a large campus or be in like a larger city. They want to be, you know, by the lake. They love the outdoors. They want to take advantage of those opportunities. And so that's definitely a big advantage of our campus. You literally get a lake view every day. Some of our students are lucky to have like a lake view from their dorm window, which is really cool. Another advantage is that, you know, we're part of the University of Minnesota, but we're smaller. So if you're looking for a U of M experience, but a smaller, not, you know, part of like a 30,000 plus crowd here in the cities, it's a really good alternative. I don't want to say alternative. It's a really good place to be. We're also all connected by Skyway and Concourse system. So days when it's like, you know, 50 below with wind chill like it was, you know, the other day, you don't have to go outside. So our students can walk around in t-shirts and shorts like literally every day and not go outside if they don't want to. I honestly think that that's also a disadvantage though, because I'm one of those people, I actually didn't go to UMD. I'm from the area, which is what kind of drew me to this position 8 years ago, but I actually went to St. Ben St. John's and I fell in love with just the campus, being outside, just like the beauty of it. And not that UMD is not beautiful, it literally has nature around you. But I like walking around outside. And so some students, like if you don't have to go outside and just walk through the Skyway and Concourse system all the time, I don't know, I just like being outside. So that's kind of like a lame disadvantage, but that's kind of more of like a personal thing for me than anything. But
It's funny because you both mentioned location, and St. Cloud is a very different location. But I was thinking the location is so good of St. Cloud, and that's what I was going to mention. And it really also just kind of goes back to it just depends on what you're looking for. I grew up in Monticello, if you're familiar. So when I was growing up, it was like 10, 12,000 people. I knew that I wanted something that felt more like a city than what I grew up with. But like the idea for me personally of like Minneapolis, St. Paul seemed a little bit big. And so that's why I liked St. Cloud because it has a population of like 70,000, has everything you need right in St. Cloud. We have like a mall, a movie theater if you've never been. Our downtown is very historic, lots of local shops and restaurants. We have like a Home Depot. Everything you need is right in St. Cloud, which was something that I really liked. Also, the campus size itself too, having a student body of about 10,000 people, it's a good sized campus, but average class size still sits right around 17 for us. And you can walk from one end of campus to the other in about 10, 15 minutes. So I liked the idea of not having a super widespread campus and my professors being accessible to me. So like not feeling lost in a big auditorium if I did need help. I would say those were big things. Another thing was I went into college undecided what I want to study. And since we have over 200 majors, so I wasn't too worried about having to transfer out when I did decide to declare a major and I didn't have to. So those are the big perks that come to mind. Also, all of our students get into all of our athletic events for free. If you are a hockey fan, even if you're not, the games are still super fun as a student. Again, you get to access those for free. And the teams actually, they're good. So that makes the games fun as well. So yes, I think those are the initial things that come to mind. I think a disadvantage could be the parking. Public safety is on it. So don't leave your car somewhere where it's not supposed to be because you'll end up with a bunch of tickets like me.
This is a good point to ask students to really think about what learning environment is best for them. We kind of accidentally ended up with institutions that are all similarly sized. The U for our students is often a default. They're very excited about our flagship university. It's wonderful that we have such a wonderful place here local to us. But I have students who will say, I want to go to the U. Why? Just seems like a good place. How do you feel about learning with 1,500 classmates? Ooh, that would be bad. Okay, so helping them link some of these dots together. Of course, your classes aren't always going to be that big, but it is true that as a freshman, you could commonly be in class with 500, 1,000, and it will not be taught by the professor. It will be taught by a series of TAs. And they do break you into smaller groups, but just having that understanding and the self-understanding and self-awareness to know what will be your best learning environment is really important. Okay, next question. What are the trade-offs for commuting versus living on campus? And before we hear some of our responses, I would say it's fairly normal for schools to have a 1-year on-campus living requirement or at least strong recommendation, but it does vary by institution. For example, Gustavus wants you to live on campus for 4 years. And we already talked about how our 2-year schools aren't likely going to have housing. So it's a wide variability. But what I will say is that I have never experienced a college that isn't willing to work with a family and understand where they're coming from and what their constraints are and to help make it a positive experience. But we'll start with you, Brittany.
Yes, so I think I mentioned this earlier. So we have a first-year live-on requirement. So our freshmen live in the dorms. Typically, after that, our students move to one of the apartments or houses that are close by. We do have state view apartments through St. Cloud State, and so this our apartment. That's apartment living. It's fully furnished for our sophomores, juniors, seniors. But typically, students, yes, they live in the dorms at first, and then they move off. Living in the dorms that first year really does help create that community feel. It's literally like summer camp the whole year. You have like your hall of people and you have organized activities. And oftentimes students will find their sophomore, junior, senior year roommates during their time in the dorms. If you had a situation where you didn't want to or couldn't live in the dorms your freshman year, I guess I'm kind of jumping into the secondary part of this question about how we help foster community. For our commuters, the biggest thing would just be getting involved with one of our student orgs, clubs, or sports. And just in general, it's very important just to find your people when you get to a college campus so that you don't feel isolated. And so that's the biggest thing I would say is just getting involved with something, especially if you're not living in the dorms your freshman year.
Ditto, pretty much. That was like a really good answer. You know, and like I said before, like UMD and I think like the University of Minnesota campuses in general, I don't think have like an on-campus living requirement. But again, it's highly, highly encouraged for sure your first year. Duluth, we also have free busing for all of US students. So with your U card, you can take the Duluth Metro anywhere for free. So even if you live off campus and you're commuting to campus, it's really easy to get back and forth and get around the city. And there is, I think like I can speak for all of us, there's always something going on campus, whether it's organizations, whether it's like free movie nights, grocery bingo. That's a huge one, by the way, grocery bingo, get those free groceries. Like, you know, free food, sports, you know, theater productions, concerts. So I guarantee you that wherever you decide to go, whether it's any of our universities, another 2-year, a 4-year public, private, like you will find you know your people and what you like to do, so that alone I think really entices students to stay on campus, be involved on campus, and just kind of find like where your fit is.
So I'm very big on storytelling, and this story has nothing to do with Pepsi products, so don't worry. So me personally, I am an alumni from the University of St. Thomas, so I've experienced it. I have that perspective. And for me, what was super important about living on campus for the first 2 years was, like these two have said, developing that community and fostering relationships. One of my best friends was my roommate from my sophomore housing. We still talk to this day, and we've actually gone on a bunch of like excursions through the university. So we have STAR, which is our St. Thomas Activities and Recreation, and they will put together, you know, trips to go out to a Timberwolves game or to a Twins game. And we have the mystery bus, which they give students clues, and they have to go around campus, find some clues, and they get on this bus and they ship them somewhere in the Twin Cities to like an escape room or something like that. As for commuters, we have what's called off-campus student life, and so that's a physical space on campus for off-campus students, commuters, to kind of gather, get to know each other, but also have like resources, and they're able through that specific department to be connected to more events on campus because there's kind of a shortage of that when you're a commuter. You're not, I guess, more privy to some of those on-campus events. So, I don't know if there's anything else with that.
I think the thing is, between commuting and living on campus is that I feel like there's like a misconception that like commuters are like completely separated, from the community because, they can still come to campus. They still are able to use all the resources. They're still able to join clubs, use the gym on campus. We have commuter meal plans. So even if you still want to eat on campus, you can get a meal plan and eat with the residents on campus. So, that's not to say that it's not a bad thing to commute because obviously there are advantages with commuting. Is obviously you're saving money on housing. I mean with these gas prices, you might as well be paying the same amount. But we're also in the metro area where there's a lot of bus stops, so you don't necessarily have to be driving to campus if you just want to take the bus. Or again, there's just so many things to do even as a commuter.
Yeah, I should add too that for those that are interested in on-campus housing, which is, as everyone said, a great opportunity to build that community, when you are a senior and you're considering where you want to go, you might want to ask about housing demand and how early you should get in your housing application so that you can be guaranteed housing. Some campuses will guarantee housing. The U, I'll mention, I think they guarantee housing, but I've had this happen to a few students now who wait on getting their housing application in, and they don't realize that the U doesn't necessarily care where the majority of your classes are. So you might spend all of your time on the West Bank in Minneapolis, but they might have placed you over in St. Paul for housing on the St. Paul campus, and suddenly you're looking at like a 45-minute plus commute to class every day that you never dreamt that you were going to have to do. So just be asking the questions and be understanding when your housing application should be getting in so you can have the ideal housing for you. Starting with you guys down there, do you want to tell us a little bit about the activities, sports, clubs available to your students? Big news, St. Thomas is now a D1 school, right? So that's part of it.
Correct. Yes. So we are the first college in the nation to go directly from Division III to Division I. So that's awesome news. We were Division I, I believe, as of fall 2021. So that's super awesome. Other than that, I think sporting events are still free for our students to attend. Can you attest to that? Okay. Yeah. So if you still want to come out and support our Tommies, it's free. All you have to do is have your student ID, and especially with the new arena coming in, you can definitely come out to some hockey and basketball games. To go into a little bit more about the sport-wise, we do also have club sports and intramural sports. So, obviously not everyone gets recruited to play Division I sports, but if you still want to, still play the sport that you're passionate about, we have like club lacrosse, club soccer, and so on and so forth, and then same thing with intramurals. Club-wise, we have about 120 different clubs and organizations, anything from student government to different major clubs. That's something I always recommend for students to join because that's a good networking opportunity, especially our Tommy Marketing Club, for example. They bring in speakers from Fortune 500s, and some of those people might be looking for interns or for students for their jobs, so that's always something good. We have faith and cultural-based clubs and, different other fun clubs that are meant to take you away from the books, but I don't know if there's anything that you were involved in specifically that you want to speak on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's much of a club, but more of kind of like an activity. So it also shaved off the cost for me to attend. I was an RA, I was a resident advisor. And so being in that position, like it takes care of your room and board. So for like 2+ semesters so I was in charge of like an entire floor in one of our upperclassmen residence halls. So I think that's something that we don't talk about a lot. And so you kind of have like one-on-ones with students, connect them with resources on campus. Kind of just like it's someone in the residence hall that you can kind of go to with any questions. So yeah, I was also in the Hispanic Organization for Leadership and Achievement. So we have a lot of like multicultural clubs on campus. We also have undergraduate student government, which makes kind of like a huge club that does like decision-making processes for our undergraduate population. So yeah, Christian covered a lot of it, but that's kind of my tail end.
Yeah, at UMD, we have a lot of similar organizations. Honestly, whatever you're involved with in high school, like don't give that up wherever you go to college, because if you want to continue that, I bet you'll find it, wherever you decide to go. But something unique to UMD is we have our rec sports and outdoor programs department, and they actually do like day trips up to like the North Shore. You can check out a canoe, snowshoes, skis. They do boundary waters, like camping trips. So like if you're into the outdoors, I've mentioned this before, come check our campus out. They literally throw opportunities at you to be outside, whatever that might be. We have students that go ice climbing. We have students that go surfing on Lake Superior. That's a pretty big club on our campus, which I hear is pretty cold, but a lot of students are really interested in doing that. Surfing on Lake Superior is pretty cool to see. We are, since I'm sitting next to St. Cloud, who UMD men hockey swept them the other week. And you're the number one team in the country. Anyway, like what's cool too is just like
Do I need to separate them?
I had to do that. But yeah, just I don't know. With sports like the rivalry is just so fun too, wherever you go, and then being like a Benny. Okay, here we go. We have the Tommies here, like that rivalry. But anyway, so again, whatever your interests are, like find that. On our campus too, you don't have to be a music major or a theater major to be in like the marching band or the pep band, or in our theater productions. So really the sky's the limit for you, whatever your interests might be.
Awesome. So on our campus, we have over 250 student-led clubs and organizations, everything from like academic-based to interest-based. And then we also have 17 NCAA-sponsored sports. I will echo, what you just said about if you do something, find a college that you can do that thing for if that's what you're interested in. I'm going to go a little rogue here because I also coach at St. Cloud State. And so many of the young men and women that I coach say that they didn't think that they were I coach the dance team, they didn't think that they were going to be good enough to be able to dance in college, and then they come on my team and they make the team and they have a great experience. And being a student athlete shapes your experience so much. So if that is something that you want to do find a university that you can do that for. It doesn't have to be Ohio State football, right? It could be SMSU football or wherever. But if you have a passion and you don't want to give it up yet, hang on to that when you go to college and find a school that you can do your thing for. So that is my side tangent. But yes, also organizations. If you don't want to go like the NCAA competitive route as well, we also have club sports, intramural sports. Club hockey is a lot of fun, I hear. We have a club dodgeball team, if that is, and they're good. I don't know what that means. I don't, but so we have those options, and then also just like interest-based things like we have like religious and political groups, multicultural groups. We have like skydiving and storm chasing. We have a Netflix club that took off over COVID. So if you have an interest, I always say we probably have a student org for you. And if for whatever reason we don't have a student org, you just need you and 4 other friends and a faculty advisor, and I'll be your faculty advisor. You can make your own, but just definitely find a school that you can do your thing for.
I have more questions, but I would love to give you all an opportunity to ask some questions. So if anybody has a question, I'll just bring you the mic.
I'll just ask her, I don't need the mic, I don't think. What is security like on the campuses?
Good question.
I'm going to just repeat it for the benefit of our cameras. What is security like on the campuses? Thank you.
Good question. I think, so at St. Cloud State, we have the blue light stations. Those are fairly common practice, I think, on every college campus that you'll go to. But if you've never seen them, they're a station where you can push a button and a public safety officer they'd have like a little intercom thing they would speak to you. They'd be out there very quickly. Our public safety, which is our on-campus security, is 24/7, 365. I have to call them fairly often to be let into buildings, and it never gets past the second ring. So they're very prompt about being available and ready for our students if they should need anything. On top of that, too, we also have, it's called a Safe at St. Cloud app, which is basically like a mobile blue light station. And so if you wanted to like share your location with a friend when you're walking home, or if you did feel like you were maybe in a dangerous situation, you could push that button and it's going to drop your live location to one of our public safety officers. All of our dorms as well, you have to have your student ID to be able to access it. And you can only access that if you live in that dorm. So you can't, like if you live in one, you can't go in all the other ones. So it really makes sure that only the people who are meant to be in those dorms are in there. With all that said, our campus is very safe. However, I do think that a reason our campus is so safe is because of all those precautions that we put in place. I believe it's required, we for sure have ours posted, but I believe it's required for all college campus to post their crime reports. So if you are concerned about any college campus, that should be able to be public information for y'all to find. Yeah, good question.
We have seriously everything that she just said, like pretty much a lot of the same stuff. And then, you know, UMD was also, I guess, voted the safest campus in Minnesota this last year, like given like the crime and like safety reports. So, but yeah, everything from like the app to like the different stations on campus where if you know, don't want to walk back to your dorm or apartment by yourself, someone will come and walk with you. You know, the access into the dorms, not anyone can get in. So, and then we also have the 24/7, 365, like public safety security around our campus too.
Yeah, pretty much on our campus, we have a lot of what they said as well. We have those blue light stations. Our public safety, actually, I had a friend once, and she was on South Campus, which is about a 10, 15-minute walk from main campus. And she was just cold. It was like a negative 20-degree kind of day, and she called public safety, and they went and picked her up. And so kind of like being in the middle, like with St. Paul and Minneapolis, there is kind of like, we do publish our crime reports, and we are in a pretty safe part of the Twin Cities. But yeah.
I don't want to sound like a broken record because you guys said it all, so we'll leave it there.
Any other questions?
How do you get to be an RA? Like you had mentioned that you were an RA. How did you like apply for it, or like what was the process?
The question was, how do you get to be an RA? What is the process and application?
Yeah, so initially I was in the REAL program, which is Reaching Excellence in Academic and Leadership. And that's like an introductory program at St. Thomas. And so there's 16 students in a cohort, and we just like live in the dorms during the summer, like in August. And we'll take like an introductory theology class, which was one of our like core requirements. And with that, I got placed into residence life. So that was like my like student employee kind of job. So I sat behind the desk, I took calls. I was like, all right, here's your housing assignment. Like that was me. And so with that, I think you can apply to be an RA through residence life after your freshman year. And so for me, I applied at the end of sophomore year. So it's kind of like a job application. You can be accepted or denied. And so right after your freshman year, you can apply to be an RA in one of our like 6, 7 residence halls. Mm-hmm.
And final question? Yes.
I wonder about international applicants, if you have something to say about that. And especially in my kid's case, I'm here on visa, but my visa takes a long period of time, so they can stay here like 3 or 4 years. So I am thinking of sending them to college. And any information that I should know about the process of getting them into college about that.
Yeah, so the question was about having an international or student visa.
Yeah, no, I'm very transparent. I just started at the university about a month ago, so I'm going to hand it to Christian.
Yeah, so we have a specific department for international admissions. We also do work with like dual citizen students, permanent residents, anything like that. So we have a very open process with if you want to go to college, how can we help you get to that spot? And so we classify our students based off of like, are they domestic, are they international? You're still we see you still as a student. You're going to be able to still get the same scholarships that our domestic students are going to get. That being said, I mean we have GPA translators. So if your children take classes in another country, you can still send those documents to us, and we can our international admissions counselors would be able to take that grading system and translate it into like our an American grading system essentially. So I mean we have the resources, we have the counselors for that, and we're all here for you because again I mean at the end of the day we see you as students regardless of what citizenship you hold.
Yeah, that was pretty well said. Like, we have an international admissions counselor too, Irene. She's awesome. So, like, really, any colleges you're looking at, don't hesitate to reach out to admissions because, they'll be able to talk with you. And for the most part, it's very similar as like a domestic student, right? It's just you're completing the application. It might be providing additional transcripts, again, like if you do have schooling or secondary school from another country, but otherwise, the process is very, very similar as applying as a domestic student.
I would echo the same. Yeah.
I'm sure they'll all be willing to stick around for a few moments if there's questions. I'm going to ask one final piece. What would you give for one piece of advice to students that they should consider when thinking about what school is right for them? And we'll close out on that note.
That's a heavy question. I think what I always try to tell seniors that I'm working with, I liked the graphic that you shared, like the financial fit, personal fit, and there was one more.
Academic fit.
Thank you, academic fit. And I think that sometimes we have this idea that there's a school that's going to be in the middle of that circle, in that center circle that meets all those needs, when realistically there could be 10, 15, 20, and you would be a happy student at any of those colleges that you select. I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on choosing like the exact right college. And I went to St. Cloud State and had a great experience. However, I'm sure if I went to UMD or St. Thomas, I would have also had a very great experience. So I try to tell students, take a little bit of that pressure off. Also, the biggest piece, and I've already said this, is just finding your people and finding your community. That's going to be the biggest indicator, I think, of your just overall fulfillment and success on a college campus.
Okay, this is gonna sound really cheesy, okay? But like, and some of you might have been already, you visited college campuses already, or you're kind of deciding where you're gonna go. Keep notice of like how you feel when you're physically on the campuses you're looking at. Trust your gut, like trust where you feel at home. That's how I made my college decision. I literally just felt home. I visited St. Ben's and I'm like, this is it. So it's really like kind of creepy that you just know, but like trust that intuition that you have. Obviously there's a lot that goes into it too, but visiting college campuses is huge, and then just like taking note of how you're feeling. So with my counselor background, that is my advice to you. Trust your intuition.
Yeah, definitely to echo that, I would say advocate for yourself. Schedule 1, 2, as many visits as you need for which colleges you're thinking about. I use a grocery store analogy. So you go into the produce section, you want to get the best produce possible, right? So you check it out, you see how it looks, how it feels. Same thing with college, right? If you see a specific, division, say I want to, even like dean of students, or if I want to ask about clubs on campus, actually physically go to the campus and meet with the people who work there, because they're going to be able to give you stories and give you experiences about, campus life. And about how you can fit in there. And at the same time, try and like visualize yourself on campus as well. Like go home, like I like to journal a lot, so journal about it. Actually like see yourself in a classroom after you've seen a class going on. Even like go to the gym. Like I like to work out, so I envision myself actually being at the gym at St. Thomas. So just, yeah, that would be my advice.
You stole my answer, so I don't know what to say. I mean, in terms of, we talked about visiting campus, and that's something that I always think that is very important, is like Jonathan said, you're never going to get a feel for campus just by going there once. Because typically when you go, it's going to be a very general, overarching view of campus, where you're going to take a general tour, you'll check out maybe 1 or 2 dorms, and then that's it. But it's like, there's so many other things to see on campus that you have to consider in your college decision. We talked about class sizes. Do you see yourself in a 17-person lecture, or do you see yourself in a 200-person lecture? And so that's why I personally, recommend to go visit both. Go sit in on a classroom. See, is this environment that can I learn just by looking at a lecture or looking at a PowerPoint for an hour and a half, or do I need to be there participating in class, talking with my peers and professors? So that's something I always recommend, and especially with us at St. Thomas, you can really customize your itinerary to what you want to see on campus. So if you've already taken a tour your first time, you don't have to take the tour again. You know what campus looks like. But if you're interested in the business department, you could take a tour of our college. You can sit down with the professor. If you want to sit down with financial aid after you fill out your FAFSA and you get your award, and you can talk through it with a financial aid counselor. You can eat lunch on campus. Who doesn't like a free meal sponsored by the university? There's just so many things to do on campus that you really have to take everything in, and you have to weigh everything as opposed to just like, oh, I'm just going to take a tour and then make my decision from there.
Yeah, and I would say that colleges are very amicable to your request. If you want to sit in a class, but they don't have it listed on their website, reach out to these lovely admissions representatives and they will help facilitate that. You want to see a lab space. You want to talk to a student who's living in a certain dorm. I mean, whatever the niche is for you, they will help connect you so that you can hear for yourself and experience for yourself. But with that, I'd love to extend a very sincere thank you for you guys being here tonight. Thank you. And please, if you have follow-up questions, I think they'd probably be willing to field those as well. But enjoy your night. Know that I am here to support you. I am happy to meet with you, to field questions via email, phone calls. Don't hesitate to reach out. Have a wonderful evening.